What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today I'm going to be showing you a real implementation of the web integration with m-pesa to your particular website. So what I have today for you guys is how we can do this in an actual e-commerce website. So in this project, we're going to be building a way for you can sell actual products and be able to just buy this directly from m-pesa, and you will be able to record these transactions in a database which only will only be accessible by the admin. Okay, so before we get straight to it, if you love my content, then be sure to like and subscribe. Help me beat the algorithm and help me get to 650 subscribers. We're taking this slow. I told you in your previous video, our goal was 600, so we are already there. So help me hit that 650 target by subscribing right now if you're just a viewer and haven't really subscribed. So let me take you through the demo right now. So this is the product. As you can see, is a watch worth $120, which is probably like once we convert it to Kenyan shillings, that's like 12,000. We'll do that for a watch, but anyway, for the test amount, I'm going to do 1 shilling. So once I hit buy now, I'm going to receive an SDK push on my phone, which I'm going to show this. Once I edit this video, you'll be able to see as I receive this particular SDK push. Okay, so I'm just going to key in the pin, okay, and hit enter. And once I'm done, this would have automatically been saved to the database if it is a successful transaction. So, and that's it. I've received the message, which means this transaction was successful, and I actually did receive this particular transaction. So if I head into the records, which I've conveniently put into this particular button, I get redirected to a login page where, of course, you need the correct credentials because you will be the actual owner of this platform. So you'll be the only one who is supposed to actually view these records and not every visitor to your particular site. So, okay, that's it. You see, it has a good interface. Welcome to your e-commerce shop. So let's do some incorrect items. So I'm going to do admin and some random password and hit continue. And of course, you're going to get an error message. So you're not going to leave the login page and get into any of the transaction records. So as you can see, you have this particular error message, incorrect username or password. But if we put in the correct credentials as the actual owner of this e-commerce platform and put in that password, sorry, put in the password and hit on continue, you get automatically redirected to the records page where you'll be able to view the record of the transactions. So automatically, once we get redirected to this page, so as you can see from the URL, we are already at the records.php page. So I can actually see the transaction that just occurred now. This is my phone number, this is the transaction ID, and this is the amount. So of course, as the admin, you can now accordingly make arrangements for this particular order to be filled by contacting the person who has ordered the particular product. And that's it. That's how you'll be able to build this particular e-commerce platform and integrate it with m-pesa as a payment gateway. Of course, you can now implement this yourself by adding more products, as long as, of course, you know the logic is the same. And of course, you can just add the total amount for more products dynamically through a cart feature. But don't you worry, we'll be doing another tutorial soon enough where we'll do a full e-commerce platform with lots of products, implement a cart feature, a checkout, all that using core PHP. Although I've had your comments, I've had all your comments. So pretty soon we will be diving into using all the other frameworks and the other languages. So I'm going to do an SDK push on Node.js as well as all other languages for the backend. So we're going to do a Django and Node.js, and not really sure if we are going to do something with Rails, but Okay, guys. So if you want to save on hours on production, to actually get your idea running faster, and you don't want to follow along with only none of this, you can really simply get the full code tutorial. Just hit me up a WhatsApp message. This is just going to cost you 50 Kenya shillings, and you will have your source code directly. So hit me up a message on WhatsApp or a call, and I'll send you the code either via WhatsApp, or you may get this code via email. Don't worry, I'm working on a site for you guys so that you'll be able to just automatically download this code after some payment to get away, which of course it will be M-Pesa is implemented. But anyway, you can follow along with me and still get to the final output. It's just going to take a while longer. So the prerequisites for this are going to be simple. First, you're going to need Heroku, which we have used severally, which will allow us to host our PHP and MySQL. The starter files, you're going to find them right here. So these are public repository, so you'll be able to find all these starter files, which are just basically the static files. Ignore this. I'm just going to change this because this tutorial is not yet on YouTube, so I don't have the markdown to actually place on this particular GitHub README. But of course, it will be updated and it will display to this particular tutorial. But if you haven't checked out this is also an awesome tutorial, so you should be sure to check it out. So this contains mostly static files, which of course are this particular static files. Of course, the user interface, the hover effects, all the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript that make this happen, because this is a PHP and of course a logic kind of video about M-Pesa integration and such. So I'm not really planning on majoring on a lot of HTML and CSS. So I've provided all this for you guys right here. So just hit on code and then download zip. Once you're done with that, you will have a folder similar to mine. So I've created one in htdocs and I've called it m-pesa tutorial. So as you can see, it has the particular starter files. And I've also taken the liberty of opening this up with Visual Studio Code. So as you can see, these are just basically static files. So no PHP at all. For the logic, for the login, it's not implemented yet too. The records also don't have any dynamic records being pulled out, and of course the callback url.php page is completely empty. So let's build this out together. Don't worry, you'll find timestamps down in the description to help you find exactly what you're looking for in seconds. So you could head down to my GitHub, star some of my repositories, and be sure to follow me so that you'll be able to find most of my code right here. So let's get to it. So first of all, we need to start by getting this on GitHub and of course Heroku. So to make us more productive, I usually write down everything that we have to do so that you'll be able to micromanage your otherwise large task into fewer, more achievable goals. So of course, our first goal is to push code to GitHub. And of course, your second goal is deploy to Heroku. And of course, the third one would be, of course, add MySQL database. Oh, okay, not really. This shouldn't be a third step. Simulate SDK push. Then of course the fourth would be add database, and the fifth would be connect to the API, and then the final step would of course be to display the records to table. So sadly, I'm not going to be showing you guys the login part of this tutorial, how to implement the logic for the login system. Unfortunately, I'm just going to paste this in because this is not really that kind of tutorial. But do not worry, at the end of the tutorial, I'm going to stick an end screen of another tutorial which will show you guys how to create a sample login system. Okay, so let's get straight to it. So first, let's push this code to GitHub. So I've created a folder called m-pesa tutorial. So first, let me open up a terminal where there it is. I'm going to shut off everything else. Then I'm going to head over and create a new repository. This is going to have all the code, including the particular logic that actually makes this website to actually run. So for this tutorial, I'm going to create this as an actual private Git repository. So I'm just going to call this m-pesa tutorial. Hopefully it's available. Yes, it is. And I'm just going to set the option to private and hit on create repository. See, Git repository. Sorry, Git. Of course, then you want to add all your files, and then you want to commit this file. So I'm just going to give the comment as starter files. Starter files, and then hit that. And of course, you want to copy the remote URL as such. Then you want to just press shift and insert, and it automatically pastes to your git bash. And then of course you want to just push this, so just run the command git push origin master, and it's that simple, guys. You have now pushed your code to GitHub. So we can check that off the bucket list. So let's get that. And of course, if I head over and refresh this page, this should automatically have my files, which is the similar one that you will find in this particular repository that of course I will leave down in the description. So that's just loading up. So, and that's it. So as you can see, it has loaded up and we have all our files. So the second step was to deploy this to Heroku. So to do that, we're going to head over to Heroku, create a new app, and of course I'm just going to call this project let me call this Apple. I'm going to call this Apple. Let's just call it Apple if this is available. Apple is definitely not available, so let me call it Apple Logic. Apple Logic sounds like a name, Apple Logic, and that's available. So let's just create that app, and you want to link it to your particular GitHub repository. So I'm just going to hit connect to GitHub. Then I'm going to search for the repository, which was m-pesa tutorial. M-pesa. Let me just search for m-pesa. And of course, we have tutorial m-pesa handler, m-pesa crash course. So I'm looking for m-pesa tutorial. This is the one. And once I hit connect, you want to make sure to enable automatic deploys. So whenever we deploy our code to the GitHub master branch, it automatically gets uploaded and deploys our app on Heroku. So let's do that and just hit on deploy branch. And it's going to work its magic. Heroku is just going to build an environment in which your app is going to run, depending on the composer.json file you attached, which of course we forgot, but it's not really necessary. And of course, there it is. Website load. I'm just going to stick this out right next to the original application so that you can actually see where we're getting there. So as you can see, the hover effect is already implemented, but there is no logic to this particular buy now button because the handler is only still the index.php, but it still doesn't have any logic to actually handle a particular any payment whatsoever. So that's why this page is not going to yield us any results. It's just going to return us back to the index.php, as you can see. So let's get straight and start implementing the logic for this, because we have this live on our new Apple Logic Heroku app.com. So let's scratch it off our bucket list. No, I think we should first connect this so that the login system works. So for the login system, I'm not going to take much time on this. I'm just going to get the actual files from my original file. So I'm just going to head into my htdocs. Then I'm going to head over to mdop, the original project, and I'm just going to click on this login system, and of course it's going to open up on my VS Code as expected. So what I want to do is actually copy the logic that makes this tick. So I'm just going to copy this. Oh, no. I realize now that this is going to somehow require us to connect to Heroku. So I should first probably get to the point where I explain how that's done so that I don't confuse you guys. So let's forget about the logic implementation for now. So first, let's generate an SDK push. Generating an SDK push, we have done this severally on the channel, and you, of course, you can check out that by visiting the channel. So we have done this several times. So we're just going to head over to actually a really old repository of mine. So I'm just going to head over to the home page to visit a previous repository. Okay, so this is going to load up. Let's just give it a while. Okay, there it is. So it's loaded up. Let's do this. Will be the ID. The value is going to be about 11. We're going to put this to auto increment. Then this is going to be the username, and this is going to be the password. Okay, so this is going to be a variable varchar, and so will be the password. I'm going to put these values to like 255 and 255. Then I'm just going to hit on save. Okay, so I'm going to fill out the most important detail, table name, users, and then I'm just going to hit on save. So when this does its work, let's head back to our logic and check again to make sure that this actually is all right. So of course, our button is already configured to be of type submit. We are checking if the user clicked. Okay, we're getting the data dynamically from the form in this particular post variables. So we're getting this dynamically from the form. We're connecting to Heroku using this information that is reused each and every time. So that's all you need. By the way, I should just close this up. So we're connecting using this particular code, and of course we're checking for this particular record, making sure it's the exact same record that we have in our database, and if so, redirecting the user to a page called records.php. So the records.php, you have just this empty static page, so we should get redirected to a static page without any records. So okay, that's it. So let's head back, and we've created a table called users. We want to insert a record. So we want to insert a record. So I'm just going to hit on insert. So we have to hard code the the admin's password and username, so that it will cross reference to the database and find this particular user, and he'll be able to access. So I'm just going to call this admin, and the password I'm going to give it as maybe test admin. Oh, let's just keep it simple. Let's just do admin as well, and just hit on go. And there you have it. Let's give it a while, and there we go. So one row has been inserted successfully. So let's head back to our shop and actually test this out. So I'm going to hit buy now. Now why am I doing this? I should have actually rather checked on accessing the records. Although I'm pretty sure I'm getting no records because we haven't been storing anything in our database, so we have absolutely no data. But the point is, I want to be able to check if um, the logic to be able to block me from accessing this page has been implemented yet. So look at, let's hover and click on this. I conveniently placed the access to the records at this particular button, the price tag. Page and responsive. Let's just wait. This is just about the internet connection. So from time to time, you're going to see some shifts. It's usually when I just post the video so that you don't keep staring at a loader for long. And like that, you have the login. So let me first do a wrong login. So I'm just going to do username admin and then some wrong password and try to hit continue. And so you have the logic that's going to be handling it right here. And of course, you don't leave this particular page. But I really thought there was going to be an error message. So let's check out this. There should be an H3 displaying. Okay, so that's it. Straight up, let's do a wrong login with a different password and just hit on continue. And as expected, you get this message. Really, code can really frustrate you. So you get the message. This is what we've been expecting from the word go. So let's do a correct login this time. Let's do admin and password admin. So once it cross checks with the database, it finds that this record exists and you will be logged in instantly and redirected to the records page. So as you can see with transactions, and currently we have no transactions at all. So we've updated our webhook. So all we have to do now is write the logic for the actual backend to actually save this callback URL logic and data from TINYPESA. So what you want to do now from your file, I'm just going to hit this up. I don't want this tutorial to be excessively long, so I'm just going to copy this. I'm just going to make sure that I remember to close up the extra file lest I forget and have us working in the completely wrong file, which is completely not in sync with our actual remote, the code that is available on our remote GitHub repository. Okay, so this is just empty. It's empty. Okay, so I'm just going to go to the original. The original should have all this code. So let me just go to the callback URL. I'm just going to tell you a thing or two about how exactly this gets implemented. If you checked out my full crash course, you already know this, and of course I explained it there, so you can just head over to that. So nothing has changed at all. That's why I told you guys you really need to get the starter code from MSOS. So what essentially has happened here is we've received the response. Okay. Once we have the response, we connected to our Heroku database, and then we inserted this data to our table, which was TINYPESA, the one we just imported to our through our PHP MyAdmin to our remote server. So this is what we're going to do now. Is we're just going to update the redirects. Okay, let's remove this. This wasn't part of that implementation. I was just playing around with code at that particular juncture. So be sure to close up. I'm definitely going to be sure to close up this particular file so that I don't actually think I'm doing something, but I'm completely out of sync with what's going on. So what this essentially is going to do is it's going to save this to our database, but we're not going to be able to view it yet because we haven't actually implemented the logic to be able to display our records back. So for you guys who are coding along with me, I just need you guys to look at this. So as you can see, I just created some really handy variables where I was able to store not that part. I was able to store all this conveniently by showing PHP where exactly it's going to find each of these. As you can see in the callback content, in the body, the SDK callback, and it will be able to find the checkout, request ID, result code, value, all the metadata, including of course phone number and the receipt number. Then I implemented an if statement to check if this transaction was successful, of which if it was, I get a result code of 0. Thereafter, I use the default Heroku credentials to be able to connect into my database. I just wrote a small snippet to check if this connection was successful. If not, I get an error which will query the full error for me to be able to debug. Else, this would mean that this was successful, and of course, I would now want this to be inserted into my database or else echo another error. So that code is pretty straightforward. So let's just send that back to the live version of our website, and voila. So this should be able, we should be able to actually see these records on our PHP MyAdmin, although we won't be able to see this on our records page. So what I want to do is I want to just copy this so that I want the records page to always be open so that I'll be able to just reload this. I don't want to make this tutorial longer by just the long periods of time when we wait for a page to load up. I just want to be able to refresh that. So this new tab, as it loads up, let me just paste in the destination URL, which is the shop that we have designed to be able to sell our products. And as you can see, the long wait. So as we are doing the long wait, okay, it's done. So I want to now do a transaction, and cross your fingers. We don't really need to cross our fingers because this is logic, and if logic works, it does. If it doesn't, it really doesn't. There's really no way to just have maybe a win-lose situation. It either works or it doesn't. So, so you can see, you wait for that SDK pop-up, and I'm going to complete this transaction by entering my PIN and hitting on OK. So we're going to listen to a confirmation message notification shortly in a few seconds. And there we go. So if I head over to transactions, I shouldn't be able to see a record from this point. But if I head over to my local host, to the TINYPESA table, and actually click on it, I should be able to see one record, which means that one value will have been stored in my database. And voila, as you can see, there it is. The ID is 14. The checkout ID is as follows. This is the result code, the amounts, the m-pesa receipt, and of course the phone number. So that is all brilliant and amazing, but we need this transaction to be right here, right here. So if I head over to my m-pesa tutorial, that from my code editor, first of all, checkout. So let's remove this and remove this. So as you can see, our work is now pretty simple. We just have one last body. In fact, we should also remove this. So displaying our records to a table is pretty much very simple, because if I head over to my records page, I have the static files, So I have a table. I have an H3 first, which just says transaction records. I have a table where these are just the table heading, transaction number, phone number, transaction ID, and amounts. And then in the table body, this is where you're going to need some dynamic PHP to be able to display this particular data. So I'm just going to head over to mdope and then just click on records. Okay, so remind me to always close this. So and make sure to click and close this file before we leave. So I'm just going to explain what's going on before even I copy this. Of course, you remember this, so you should just ignore this. This is just connection to our database. Then we are going to make a query where I said the variable query is going to be MySQL query connection, where we select all the data from the table TINYPESA. So this select star just means select everything. So then we just want to display this data dynamically on a table. So we're using the MySQL fetch array to fetch this data and then dynamically displaying it in the table data cells. So inside the table data, we are actually using this PHP tag to echo dynamically on each of these rows the particular records. So as new records are inserted from a callback URL, automatically it creates this new table data rows dynamically, one after the other. So let me just close that up and then insert here in this conveniently commented code. So let me just first format. I really like all my code clean. So I'm formatting the HTML and then I'm just going to format the entire document so that my code can be a bit organized. So let's just push this through. So the process is similar, it's the same. Then just git commit and then just push this to the master branch and jackpot. So if I head back and do another transaction, so I'm gonna hit buy now. Okay, let's give it a minute. And of course, in the meantime, as we wait, you can help me beat that YouTube algorithm by just demolishing that subscribe button down below. As we wait for this to load up, it's actually updating the changes that we just added because Heroku is doing this build over again. So we can't really complain. Let Heroku do its thing. So, okay, this really is taking a little bit while, but we're going to, okay, the page became unresponsive. I really don't want to keep pausing on some of this on the screen record because it will later cause some inconsistency in the sync between my audio and the video. So let's just bear with this and just wait. Yeah, we gonna wait.